the color of his name. They said it was just a name. But by lunchtime, Malik had already become a punchline whispered behind every locker door. It was his first day at Eastwood High, a school with banners about diversity and zero tolerance, but hallways steeped in the kind of silence that says, "You're not one of us." Malik stood alone at the edge of the cafeteria, tray trembling in his hands. Spaghetti, corn, chocolate milk. None of it mattered. All he could taste was the bitter sting of the stares. No one told him to sit down. No one offered a smile. Just eyes. Blue, green, hazel. All trained on him like he'd walked in covered in something contagious. He didn't expect a red carpet. But he didn't expect this either. By sixth period, Mr. Callahan, a white man with a voice like a bark, mispronounced his name 3 times before smirking and saying, "You know what? I'll just call you Mike." "No," Malik said, voice quiet but steady. "It's Malik." The room froze. "What's that?" Callahan raised an eyebrow. "You correcting me?" A few snickers. One cough. Malik didn't look away. "Yes, sir. It's Malik." A pause long enough to build a wall in. "Well, Malik," Callahan said, drawing it out like a threat, "let's hope your attitude doesn't match your name." That night, Malik didn't eat dinner, didn't talk to his mom, just stared at his ceiling, wondering if names could bleed. Malik had never been in trouble. Not at Lincoln Middle, not back home in Detroit. He was soft-spoken, sharp-minded, and made honor roll 6 semesters straight. But in Eastwood, he was something else entirely. He was a question mark in a school full of periods. On day 3, someone wrote "Thug Life" in Sharpie across his locker. The janitor wiped it off before first bell. No one said a word. On day 5, during gym, someone tripped him. Laughter echoed as he hit the floor. Mr. Salazar blew his whistle but didn't call a name. Malik stood up on his own. He didn't tell anyone. Not because he was scared, but because he knew what would happen. The same thing that always happened. Nothing. But something did happen on day 8. Ms. Ramirez, the English teacher with soft hands and sharper eyes, gave them an assignment. Write about your name, where it comes from, what it means, what it hides. Malik wrote, "My name means king, not by title but by spirit. My father gave it to me before he went away. My mother says he chose it so I'd remember who I was, even if the world forgot. Every time someone calls me Mike or Malik like it's foreign, I wonder if they'd flinch less if it were Matthew, or Chad, or Ben. But I carry this name like skin. I don't get to peel it off. And I don't want to." When Ms. Ramirez read it aloud without asking, Malik's stomach dropped. But when she finished, the room was silent. No snickers, no coughs, just silence. Then, "Damn," someone whispered. Day 10 changed everything. It started with a shove in the stairwell. Malik hit the railing. No witnesses, just echoes. He didn't cry. He didn't tell. But later, someone posted a picture of him with a caption. "King of Detention coming soon." Malik had never been to detention. But by Monday, 3 teachers had written him up for being disruptive. One said he rolled his eyes. Another that he talked back. All Malik remembered was breathing. When his mother came in for the meeting, Principal Evans said, "We just want to make sure Malik adjusts well to the culture here." His mother blinked. "What culture is that?" Evans smiled, the kind that didn't reach the eyes. "A culture of respect." By week 4, Malik had learned the rules. Speak soft or you're angry. Speak firm and you're a threat. Smile too little, you're unfriendly. Smile too much, you're mocking. He started staying late in the library just to avoid the walk home alone. Ms. Ramirez noticed. "You okay?" she asked one Thursday. He shrugged. She sat beside him, not like a teacher, but like someone who once stood where he stood. "You don't have to shrink to survive here," she said. "You have the right to take up space." That night, Malik rewrote his essay. By the time the school held its annual Diversity Week assembly, Malik had stopped raising his hand. His name didn't get called anymore, until Ms. Ramirez submitted his essay to the student journal without telling him. It got published. Word spread. On Friday, he was asked to read it aloud at the assembly. He said no. Then he said maybe. Then he stood on stage, heart thundering, and read it, word for word. And when he looked up at the end, 1,000 eyes stared back. Some nodding, some teary, some changed. The applause came slow, awkward, uneven. But it came. Malik stood still, hands shaking slightly at his sides, as a few claps became many, then most. And for the first time since he walked into Eastwood High, he felt the floor beneath his feet soften, not literally, but in the way that tells you maybe you don't have to fight gravity alone anymore. He walked off the stage and avoided the eyes of the teachers standing near the wings. Ms. Ramirez mouthed, "You did good," and he nodded once, quickly, as if nodding too much might break something fragile inside him. But that feeling didn't last long. Monday morning, his locker had been repainted. In thick red marker, just 3 words. Know your place. No Sharpie this time. Paint. Someone had taken their time. He stood there, staring at it while other students passed by pretending they didn't see it. One boy, Connor, the same kid who once called him LeBron in math class, smirked as he walked past. Malik didn't say a word. Not to the principal. Not to Ms. Ramirez. Not even to his mom that night. Because the moment you speak up, you become the problem. Not the paint. Not the message. You. He scrubbed the locker clean himself. It took an hour after school, and 3 different chemicals from the janitor's closet. Ms. Ramirez offered to help, but he shook his head. "This is mine," he said. She just nodded, but her eyes said she wanted to scream. The next day, the hallway buzzed in a new way. Not all bad. Some students looked at him with something like respect. Quiet respect. Fear even. Not of him but of what he represented now. That someone could speak truth in a building made of lies and still stand. But others just got smarter. Instead of paint, they used jokes. Instead of threats, they used sarcasm. "You're famous now, huh?" said a girl at lunch. "Gonna write about me next?" He ignored her. A boy leaned over from another table. "Yo, I read your essay. It was deep, man. Like really deep. You should be like a poet or something." There was something in his voice. Mocking, or maybe just ignorance disguised as praise. Malik stared into his tray. Cold chicken nuggets. Again. It wasn't fame he wanted. It was breath. Room. Space to be without being dissected. 3 weeks later, the school announced a new committee. The Student Equity Council. 12 students, chosen by teachers, to foster inclusion and awareness. Ms. Ramirez nominated Malik. At first, he refused. "They don't want me there. They want me there." She raised an eyebrow. "What's the difference?" He didn't answer. The committee met every Tuesday in the library. On the first day, Malik showed up late and sat at the edge of the circle. The others glanced at him like he was a shadow that might speak. Sophie was there. The only Asian student in AP History. She'd once gotten asked where she was really from by a teacher. Carlos, who wore a rainbow pin and refused to play dodgeball. And Ella, who had a stutter and said exactly 7 words the entire first meeting. There was also Jeremy. White, loud, captain of the soccer team. He sat directly across from Malik and spoke first. "I just think we're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Like, yeah. Stuff happens, but it's not like anyone here is trying to be racist." Malik looked at him, calm and clear. "No one has to try. It just is." Silence. Then Sophie said quietly, "Yeah, that." The weeks blurred. Essays, tests, glances, names. And then came the list. It appeared one morning in the boys' bathroom, taped to the wall in big black letters. "People who make Eastwood worse." Malik's name was at the top. Right below it, Carlos. Then Ella. Then Ms. Ramirez. Jeremy's name wasn't on it. Someone posted a photo of the list on Snapchat. Spread. The school took down the paper, issued a vague statement about respect, and nothing more. Malik watched the halls carefully that week. Not out of fear, but out of calculation. He was trying to decide if it was worth staying. At home, his mother noticed his silence. Again. You okay, baby? She asked. He wanted to tell her everything. But how do you explain being hated for breathing? Instead, he said, I'm tired. She touched his face softly. Then rest. But don't stop. It all came to a head 2 Fridays later. Gym class. Jeremy again. They were playing basketball. Malik was guarding him. Tight. Clean. No fouls. Jeremy missed a shot, cursed under his breath, then shoved Malik in the chest. Hard. Malik stumbled back, arms up, not retaliating. But the coach blew the whistle and pointed straight at Malik. Out. Now. What? Malik stepped forward, confused. I didn't do anything. You escalated. Locker room. Go. Jeremy smirked as Malik walked past. In the locker room, Malik sat on the bench, fists clenched. Something burned behind his eyes. Not just anger, weariness. Of the same story on repeat. He pulled out his phone and opened notes. Typed. Today I learned that silence is louder than words. That truth can get you kicked out while a lie wins applause. That justice wears a different uniform in every gym. Then he hit send. To Ms. Ramirez. That night, she posted it on her public teacher account. It went viral. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments. Who is this student? This is why we need to listen. I wish I'd had this kind of courage in high school. But not everyone was inspired. Principal Evans called Malik and his mother into the office. This kind of public attention doesn't help, he said. Doesn't help who? His mother asked. Evans cleared his throat. Our school has a reputation. We don't want outside narratives affecting. Malik interrupted. Calm. Sharp. It's not a narrative. It's my life. 2 days later, reporters started calling. The school sent a letter home saying Eastwood embraced diversity and would be conducting an internal review. Malik read it 3 times and laughed. Actually laughed. Because sometimes the only thing left to do is laugh at the absurdity of someone selling a mask as a face. Then came the email. From a black alumnus of Eastwood. Class of '95. I saw what you wrote. I remember that school. I remember being you. Keep going. Then another. You gave my son the words I couldn't. Then dozens more. From strangers. From people who knew. And then one more thing happened. One morning, he walked into school and his locker had been repainted again. But this time not in red. In gold marker, someone had written, King, never forget. He stared at it for a long time. No one stepped forward to claim it. But maybe that was the point. Maybe this wasn't just his story anymore. Maybe it never was. Malik didn't touch the gold writing on his locker. He didn't scrub it off. He didn't take a picture. He didn't need to. Because for the first time in weeks, maybe months, she felt it in his bones. That someone saw him. Really saw him. Not just the boy who stood on a stage and read an essay. Not just the name they couldn't pronounce. But the person behind it all. And that mattered more than applause. More than awards. More than headlines. Things didn't magically change overnight. Eastwood was still Eastwood. The stares didn't stop. The whispers didn't vanish. The jokes didn't dry up. But something had shifted. People paused now. They looked before they laughed. Not everyone, but enough. The teachers, too. Ms. Ramirez was promoted to lead the new Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. She invited Malik to speak at their first staff meeting. He said yes. He stood in front of 25 adults who had once watched him fade into the background and now had no choice but to listen. He spoke plainly. About silence. About microaggressions. About being a disruption when all he did was exist. He ended with a story about his father. My dad's name was Kareem. They used to call him Reem at his job because Kareem was too much of a mouthful. He worked at a car parts factory in Detroit. Never missed a day in 10 years. But when layoffs came, he was the first to go. They told him it wasn't personal. Just numbers. But you could feel it in your gut. That it was always personal for people like him. People like me. The room was quiet when he sat down. Not frozen. Just listening. Back in the halls, Jeremy barely looked at him anymore. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was strategy. Malik didn't care either way. He wasn't there for Jeremy. Graduation came faster than expected. Malik walked across the stage in a robe 2 sizes too big. His mother sat in the front row, tears already drying on her cheeks. Ms. Ramirez cheered like he was her own. When Principal Evans shook his hand, there was a moment, just half a second, where their eyes locked. Evans said, "You've grown a lot." Malik replied, "No, you just started looking." That summer, Malik worked at a bookstore downtown. Mostly shelving, sometimes running the register. One afternoon, a woman in a power suit asked him about a copy of Between the World and Me. He found it, handed it to her. "You read this?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "And?" He smiled. "It reminded me of home." She blinked, then nodded like she understood, even if she didn't. One night, late in July, Malik sat on his porch, watching the stars blink into view. His mother brought him sweet tea. "You ready for college?" she asked. He shrugged. "I don't know." She sat beside him. "You'll be fine. People are the same everywhere," he said. "Maybe," she replied, "but you're not." He looked at her. "You're louder now," she said. "Even when you're quiet. That matters." He took a sip of the tea. Cold, sweet, familiar. College was bigger, louder, more complicated. But it was also freer. Nobody knew him at first. He introduced himself as Malik, and no one blinked. No one said, "Mike." No one said, "That's a cool name," like it was a compliment and a warning. People just said, "Nice to meet you." He joined a student group that worked on campus equity policies, spoke at panels, wrote more essays. Some of them got published. One of them, titled "The Color of My Name," was picked up by a national education blog. His inbox flooded again, this time from other students, high schoolers. "I didn't know how to say it until I read yours. They call me Jay because Jamil is too much for them. You gave me courage." He responded to every single one, sometimes with a paragraph, sometimes just 2 words. "Keep speaking." In sophomore year, he returned to Eastwood for a guest lecture. The school looked the same: beige walls, blue lockers, same principal. But there were changes. A mural now filled the wall near the library, a tree with branches of different colors, each branch marked with a name. At the trunk, "We grow from who we are." Malik's name was carved near the roots. Ms. Ramirez greeted him with a hug and led him into a classroom full of students. He spoke for 30 minutes. No podium, just his voice. At the end, a girl raised her hand. "Do you still think about what happened?" He paused. "Every day," he said. "But I don't carry it like a weight. I carry it like a spine." That night, back home, he found an old photo in a drawer. Him on the first day of 9th grade. Backpack too big, smile too small. He stared at it for a long time, then flipped it over and wrote on the back, "You didn't know yet, but you were already enough." Years passed. He became a teacher. English, like Ms. Ramirez, at a school not too different from Eastwood. His students called him Mr. Carter, sometimes MC for short, a nickname he didn't hate. He had a rule: say every name right, no exceptions. On the first day of class, he wrote this on the board: "Your name is your story, and stories matter." And every year he told his own, not for sympathy, but so that someone in the back row, silent and small, could hear themselves in it, could realize they weren't alone, could know that King wasn't just a name or a word or a dream. It was a seed. And some names grow into forests,